Hola mi gente, welcome back to Chelsea Speaks. Last episode we covered Kaylee and bullying and cyberbullying. Today I have Tomas here.
Hi y'all.
I have myself and I have Wendy. So Wendy, tell us about yourself.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me here, first of all, and thank you for that beautiful introduction.
Yep.
Well, I'm Wendy. I'm the program manager for Youth Elemento. A little bit about me. I'm Salvadorian. My parents are Salvadorian immigrants. Chelsea is my hometown. I've been in the mental health field for about 8 years. Part of why I do the work I do is because of my lived experience, which I'm going to share with you guys today. That's pretty much about me.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. Chelsea's your hometown.
Yep.
So how was, growing up in Chelsea?
Growing up in Chelsea was awesome. Like, I felt like we had our own little community where I lived. So I lived by the Highland Park, and there was always kids around there to play with.
I mean, it looks much better now.
Oh yeah, they've done
really
good
nice
with the park. But yeah, it was really cool. Like, we knew each other, and it was almost like natural friendships that we had growing up. I think when I hit my teen years was when it became a little bit harder, and I think it's because of like the stigma that's around like LGBTQ.
I get it.
Talking about, your very fun experience in Chelsea and the stigma that you probably faced, did this affect your sexual orientation?
Definitely. I think it...
Or your discovery of it, sorry.
Yeah, no, definitely. It took me a lot longer to accept myself, I think, because of the stigma. I think growing up, I always felt like I was different. I compared myself a lot to like girls my age, and I never understood why I didn't like makeup. I never understood why I didn't like to play with Barbies. I never understood that. But I think because I didn't have anyone to talk to or just anyone that looked like me, it was really hard for me to accept that.
I mean, that's understandable.
Yeah.
Because it's also just a matter you're also growing up, so it's very normal to want to understand where your identity's forming. Coming about how you felt so different, was there a point where you reached that acceptance?
Yes. And I think it came from two things. I think in middle school, I was in this weird in-between of feeling like I was faking my personality almost. Oh. And I remember being bullied by this kid, and I didn't know this kid. It was just like a random kid from a different class.
They just come up to you and be like, you're my target.
Literally, I remember it's just like he would just point at me and say, she's gay. And it was so hard for me because I didn't know I was gay.
You were like, how do you know, bro?
Right. And I felt like he had like a power over me. Yeah. Because like I felt like, what if he's right? Like he's seeing something I'm not. And it's because I couldn't accept that myself. So
I mean, did you kind of have a gist, but you kind of were like, nah?
It
make you question.
Kind of. It was just like a weird, like, it was hard. I can't even put it into words. It was hard.
I get it.
But I think that experience of being bullied, I think going into high school, I didn't want to give anybody that power over me.
Yeah, because it felt like he was owning your identity,
correct.
Not you.
Yeah, and I remember like just being in my room one day and looking in the mirror, and I just looked at myself, and I was just like, Wendy, you're gay. No, seriously.
No, I'm good. Like,
and at first...
Every time I hear this, I'm just like, no, wait.
I told you the story.
No, but like, I understand, where that come from, and you're trying to accept yourself.
Yeah, and at first it felt like wrong. It felt...
Shameful.
It's almost like it fell out of place. And I kept saying it, and I kept saying it until it felt good. Like, until it felt right. Until it felt normal.
Confident.
Right. And I think that experience for me was what opened up. Like, and my chains, like, broke. Like, I was free. And, yeah, after that experience, like, I went to high school, and I just started coming out to my closest friends, and that's what really changed for me.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, that's really great.
I mean, I definitely think that the mirror part was definitely hard.
Yeah. But the mirror does a lot, like even like with confidence in general.
Yeah, because like self-affirmations, people affirm. But
yeah.
I'm glad that you kind of had the same experience, except it was just a whole lot different.
Yeah. Wait, how do you come out to your parents? Like, in which moment? Like, how do you come out to your parents?
Well, I want to say it was the hardest thing I've done so far. I think I came out to my dad first because I had a really close connection with my dad.
Yeah.
And it took me, I want to say, like an hour to an hour and a half to finally tell him. I remember we went to Revere Beach. We pulled up back when you could actually pull up and look at the water and the stars.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, we pulled up there, and I was like, "Pa, I have something to tell you." He's like, "Yeah, mija, what?" And I was like, I froze, and it took me an hour. Now he probably thought I was pregnant or some other. Honestly,
Domingo siete.
yeah.
Low-key.
Until I said it, and I'm like, "Pa, like this is what I am," and I could tell like his face was like shocked. He was like, "Okay," but what he told me was like, "You know what, mija, like I still love you. It doesn't matter." But one thing that he did tell me was like, "You're gonna have to work 10 times harder than the average because people are gonna look at you different. People are gonna treat you different," and that stuck with me. So it was him who I came out to first. I think he didn't want me to tell my mom because I think he wanted a better plan and have something in place. But unfortunately, I was outed to my mom.
Yeah.
Oh.
And because of that, I think my mom handled it a little bit differently.
Understandable.
Yeah.
But at least he was more comprehensive, you know? You know, sometimes it's like the opposite. You tell your mom first, and then it's like you're scared of your dad. In this case, you was more open with your dad. That's good.
And I want to say, to be fair, like going through this during that time, I was very selfish in that sense because it was all about me. It was about what I felt.
I mean, that's how teenagers are. I'm sorry to tell you that, but that's how we all feel.
Right. But now that I'm older, I'm like, they just didn't know what to do. They didn't know who to talk to. Who were they? If I didn't know how to get help when I know English, as my parents that didn't really know how to navigate the language, how do they do it?
Well, it's also different because you guys both come from different generations. So
Right.
it's a different cultural aspect. So definitely, it wasn't necessarily selfish, but it's understandable that now you feel that way.
Of course.
It's just part of it. I mean, when you're a teenager, you're just like, damn, like I have a lot going on.
Right.
And you think something changed between you and your parents when that happens?
Yeah. I think that they became protective over me.
Okay.
They became they didn't want me to tell anyone until I was 18. And at the time I didn't know how I felt about that because I'm like, it took me so long to tell you this.
How old were you when it happened? You were like, what?
I was 15.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
That
So
for
3
you
years
is like,
and teenage years are long.
yeah, for
Yeah,
you it feels
makes
forever.
sense.
So I became I think they became more protective over me, and they started I guess looking at different alternatives.
Yeah.
And we already had planned to move, but I think me telling them about me expedited that a little bit.
Yeah, sped it up by like a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But by any chance, like you and your parents sick for mental health support in some way?
Yeah, in the beginning, I think they went through my doctor for therapy.
Okay.
And I think what happened was that the therapist was working for them, as in they were trying to figure out how to help me, but tailored to my parents' outcomes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, therapy wasn't a good experience because no one asked me, like, Wendy, what do you want to get out of therapy? It was just more like I was in this room, and it was just more like almost kind of like trying to convert me.
Back.
No.
So for me, it wasn't really good, and I think that I want to highlight this experience because a lot of people go through this, and I think it's very important to do your research if you want to do therapy. Like, make sure that the therapist that you're seeing,
They have the experience for you. Yeah,
Exactly.
because there's therapists who aren't, like, I guess, not that they don't have the experience or the resource to help you, but there are some that are better accommodated for stuff like grief
Correct.
or LGBTQ stuff, so it's reasonable.
Yeah, and also I guess the point of like why it probably didn't work in the way you expected though is because I guess was more focused on like what your parent was looking for, more
Maybe it
not
was
to
also
look.
therapy for them in a sense because they were
Right.
trying to understand you, but they also couldn't understand
yeah.
themselves.
I honestly would have wished we did family therapy, and I'm
I
not
was
sure.
about to ask. I thought maybe it was like everybody had therapy, but it was only you.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
feel like maybe they didn't know how to ask for that, you
Yeah.
know? So it just comes with a lot of like knowledge and knowing how to navigate certain things. So I think for them that didn't exist.
And
What-
probably that also like doesn't help you like to feel like, you know, normal, you know, because they're trying to like to focus
Yeah, it only
on,
made you feel more isolated.
yeah,
Correct.
like if something was wrong with you, in
Right.
some way.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about this whole therapy experience, what happened after this, especially since that move was expedited?
Well, I ended up moving.
Oh,
so
damn.
we
So
ended
it
up
happened a lot quicker.
yeah.
Where do you went though?
I went to a city, actually a town
Oh, it's a town.
Oh.
It's a town called
Okay.
Methuen. It's up north.
Oh, I know. Methuen?
Yeah.
Never
And-
been there, though.
Yeah,
Just know that
it's a nice
there.
town. I mean, if you have a car and navigate stuff, but when I moved there, I was a senior at Methuen High, and
Okay.
I think that was worse because it was a culture shock. Like, I went from Chelsea to a town where I needed a car to get around. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any family. I didn't have anyone, so I became even more isolated. And there is where I had my darkest periods.
I get it.
Yep.
No, it makes sense because no.
Yeah, you go from a city where you can commute. A corner store's like,
Yeah.
it's actually like less than 5 minutes from like
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
there. Like you got a laundry here, you got everything, and then having to drive. I'm assuming there was probably like forests nearby and stuff.
Oh yeah, there's
like
woods
that.
everywhere.
Yeah, so it probably felt isolating.
Yeah.
Although the scenery, it's nice.
And that was harder too because now I'm in this new school. Nobody knows me. I'm sitting alone. Everybody
Yeah.
has their bonds. Everybody has their connections. And here
and
I
you're
am.
just like, damn, I'm a senior. I'm graduating. I can only
Right.
imagine that too because it's stressful.
Yeah.
Like especially now, I'm going into senior year. Well, I'm already in senior year, and I'm like, it's already stressful. I'm trying to think where I'm going off to college. All that I
Yeah.
can understand.
It's hard.
It's rough.
Wait, so part of that hard, like, and dark moment that you had moving out, that was one of the reasons why you came back
Yes.
to Chelsea?
Yes. I think experiencing what I experienced with isolation, with dark thoughts and things like that, I moved back to Chelsea and I was 17. I was legally emancipated and I
Okay.
started kind of living on my own. So I started renting a room, started working part-time, and I still went to high school. And I graduated.
Hey,
And I think
Good.
graduating
Good.
graduating was a big like
Stepping stone.
for me because I'm like I did it myself. Like nobody told me when they get up in the morning to go to school. Nobody was like I just did it myself, and that to me I proved myself that like
So coming back, so you start working and
oh yeah, so I was working part-time, going to high school. Oh, when I graduated.
yeah.
Yeah. So I started just kind of like navigating the city, and then I lived here, worked here up until I was older. And I think being here on my own also like showed my parents that I wasn't going to change and I was going to live this life, authentically, no matter
Yeah.
what. So I think moving was really good for all of us. It was hard. I'm not going to lie. It was hard leaving my sister, right? Like leaving my parents and them losing me essentially.
Yeah.
But I think at the end it became what I needed.
That's good to hear. No, and I'm glad because it's a really like resilience story. You can share with not only us but also the
There's
people who's
probably
watching
people
right
who
now.
relate out there and are probably struggling
Of
through it right
course.
now. So it inspires hope that
Yeah, that it is possible.
things are gonna happen, but life will move on.
Right?
No, and that is possible. That doesn't matter what is the restrictions. It's possible.
Yeah.
No, honestly, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of that you became the person that you are right now. And because what I see right now is that you, through what you've been through, you helping people like me, though. Not only me, around this center, though. And
Yeah.
that's really, really grateful to have someone like you right now on the
No,
team.
thank you.
Yeah, you and Christina do a great job.
Yeah.
Everybody on the team does. Christina's in the back. She's like,
Of
period.
course.
No, and then, honestly, like what you're saying is like this is everything that I went through is why I'm here today. Like I knew what it was being a teenager and not having a program like this. I knew what it was like wanting help but not knowing how to ask for help. And that's why I wanted to come back to my hometown to give this back because it's needed. In Chelsea,
Yeah.
we need more youth services.
I feel like that's the given theme that I've gathered from every episode
Of course.
where like a lot of you guys share your experiences with trying to ask for help and not being able to initiate the step towards it.
Yeah.
But it's also relatable, not just because of the resources that are given, it's also because navigating something so different and also kind of like breaking away from like culture and stigma, it's very hard. So
Yeah.
you're doing a
Yeah.
great job.
Thank you.
Just last question
Yeah.
before we close up.
Sure.
This is everything's between your parents. Like everything's good right now.
Oh yeah. So now, I mean, our relationship has gotten so much stronger. I think for them, it was just like you need time to process things.
Yeah.
Like it's not gonna come right away. But yeah, we live all together. We have a house, but we have different units, but we're all like a big happy family, and
That's
my
awesome.
partner lives with us, and
That's
cute.
awesome.
yeah, so it's become a really good thing, but I feel like we had to do the hardest things to make it this what it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you honestly for your time. Honestly,
Yeah,
I
it was
really
great.
appreciate like hearing your story and coming from someone who been through a lot of stuff. And honestly, like having you right now is a pleasure because like I don't know, it's honestly
We
it's
get
really
to
good
hear about the person that runs the show. Like, come on.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to say is like if there's anybody out there that feels the same thing that I feel, even if it's not like LGBTQ related, if it's just you need help, come to Youth Elemento. You could literally just walk right in and ask us for anything, and we will help you. It doesn't matter. So I welcome everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any resources that you want to shout out or talk about before we end this off?
Yeah, I'm going to have somebody share more resources, but I do want to give a shout out to this organization that I'm actually wearing. It's called Out of the Darkness, and they do a lot of community walks to raise awareness. So we're going to display it on the screen, and if anybody's interested, they could check it out.
All right, that sounds great.
Yeah, that sounds good. So I just want to say thank you so much, Wendy, to be here to share your
course.
story. It's really helpful for us and also the job that you've been doing here in Youth Elemento. So now we're going to go to a quick break, and then we're going to have our experts. One is Lieutenant Sarko, and the other one is Kate. So stay tuned, guys, okay? And we have you back.
All right.
And welcome back, everyone. We're coming back for that break. I hope you guys enjoy it. Right now, we have our experts here. So, why we don't introduce yourselves? Or why you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Wonderful. My name is Lieutenant Sarko Gergerian. I'm with the Winthrop Public Safety and Health Department. I've been with them for 15 plus years.
Wow.
And, we'll talk about the assignment to both public health and public safety as we continue.
Of course.
That's great to hear.
Hi, I'm Kate Moore. I'm the Director of Emergency Services for North Suffolk. So I oversee our emergency services programs, but specifically our jail diversion and co-response programs. So my job, I actually get to ride as a social worker along with the Chelsea Police, Revere Police, State Police, and Cambridge Police.
Okay.
And so I've been doing this work in one way or another, and I'll tell you guys, for almost 20 years now.
Wow.
I went to school for social work for my undergraduate degree and my graduate degree.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I get to hang out with police officers, but as a clinician.
That's
so it's a
good.
different type of role.
Of course. No, actually, thank you guys to come here. It's a really pleasure to having you guys. So let's get started with the questions. Let's get a little bit about them.
Okay, Kate. So talking back about, well, the theme today was LGBTQ. I did want to ask you, as a clinician, what are some mental health challenges that you see often with the LGBTQ population?
Absolutely. So the LGBTQIA plus questioning, all of the
I know there's so
all
much
the letters
abbreviation.
because each one are so important and I don't want to leave anybody out. And so with my answer, I also want to make it clear that I don't know everything about each individual's story or their experience. But I think that we do see high levels of anxiety, depression, feeling like this stigma, and the community and the people and the whole government maybe aren't the most supportive of them, and that causes a lot of feeling of being disenfranchised and being marginalized. And I think as a clinician, our job is to make sure that we are being inclusive in how we're working and making sure that the police officers are as well. We're in different trainings and different ways of thinking sometimes, and so I think we need to make sure that we're respecting people's pronouns, respecting people who they are, and making sure that they're feeling safe in the situation. And as a clinician, my role is to really be looking at that and understanding that there might be more suicidal ideation or actual suicide attempts and unfortunate suicide deaths because of the experiences that people have had.
I did want to ask you the difference between like a teen brain versus an adult brain.
That's an excellent question. I think that one of the main things about an adolescent brain is that they're not fully developed yet. The adolescent's brain doesn't fully develop their frontal lobe until about 24 usually. And so decision making, understanding consequences, all that stuff doesn't come until later on. It's not an excuse. It doesn't mean you're allowed to go do crimes or do bad things.
I mean, people still have a developed frontal lobe and still decide to do crimes, so.
Absolutely. And some people's don't seem to develop ever.
Real.
But in reality, they don't develop until later on. And so it's hard to have the same expectations for adolescents that we do for adults. So we need to make sure that we're understanding that teenagers or adolescents might not be able to verbally explain what they're feeling. They might not have the emotional intelligence until they're a little bit later on in life. So we have to be able to engage with youth in a different way sometimes and let them express what they're feeling and then help to educate, what we can do next in that situation.
Yeah, also I was gonna ask that you guys talk about youth. What are some of the most common youth crimes?
So I can speak from anecdotal experience from what I see.
Okay.
So like I was just saying with the youth mind brain not being fully developed yet, there's a lot of crimes that we'll see that are called, what is the word I'm looking for? Like, they're not crimes if you're an adult, but they're a crime because you're under 18.
I know what you're talking about.
So
like juvenile?
Not exactly. There's a certain type of crime. So like truancy, like not going to school is not illegal as an adult, but not going to school as an adolescent can cause you to get into some trouble. Yeah. So it might not be like crimes that people think that they see on true crime videos or movies, but it's things that we're seeing like kids not being in school, vandalizing things or graffitiing on stuff, things that you might not get in trouble as an adult for, but you would get in trouble for as a kid, like curfew violations or things like that.
That's a thing. Curfew violation.
Well, I just wanted to also add to the conversation that I've heard this statement, and it's important to kind of hold on to this when you're thinking about youth, is that children, they aren't miniature adults. Like my friend here spoke so eloquently, right? They have a different brain. It's not done developing yet, right? So they're a distinct subgroup of human at that particular age,
Well, it's also because it's kind of, like we mentioned with especially when you're an adolescent, you kind of feel like the world revolves around you. Not kind of around like...
Isn't that interesting?
People
That's right.
You, yeah, so...
That's right. And, and in our community, we're seeing the same thing, right? Like vandalism type situations, youth horsing around, which becomes fighting, problems around those issues. We have student resource officers assigned to the schools to help out with that, and they approach policing in a very different kind of way. And that's another type of officer that a community member can request. In their community. So keep that in mind, right? Okay. Different types of officers that can be requested because of the training and the type of thinking they bring to a situation.
That's useful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially for those situations. But you think like that's the reason why they're not completely developed. That's one of the reasons why it's more common to like see those youth crimes nowadays, right?
Yeah. Well, I think the evidence base for that is huge, right? They think differently. They don't have the prefrontal cortex online, which tells you when something's dangerous or you shouldn't do it or why you shouldn't do it, right?
Of course.
Youth don't seem to think sometimes why I shouldn't do something. It's always why I should, right?
Oh, okay.
So
I get it. I get the mentality. Also, as a parent, what are some tips that you can share to other parents, of course, that have LGBTQ youth or kids in this case?
So I am a parent.
I was about to ask. I'm like assuming if you guys are parents.
I'm assuming, in this case.
I am a parent. I have a wonderful 5-year-old who's the best. And what I have done as a parent personally is make sure that there is no he will never have to come out should that be what happens or anything like that. We are going to make sure that from day one, all of the books in my house have every single different type of family, ability, whatever, religion, skin color, all of that. Because if we make it sure that things are, that's normal in our house, right? My son, I had to have a conversation with him one day because my brother is gay and his partner is as well, and so his husband.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make sure that my son understood that his uncles were married, that it wasn't that they were roommates, but they were married. And so I took my son aside and I said, hey, you know that your uncle is married to your other uncle, just like how mommy and daddy are married. And he looked at me like I was crazy because he was like, yeah, mom, I know. But I wanted to make sure that that was not something, I didn't want him to go over to and thinking all his life that they were just roommates or something like that. Like, no, my brother-in-law is just as important to me and he needs to be respected as an uncle as well. So I think
kids are pretty perspective.
They are.
Perceptive, so.
And we've never hidden that. It's, it's our
You just
happy
have to
family.
clarify it.
But when we can instill that at a very young age, then it's not a question later on in life.
So now that we mention it about this theme, I just want to also to ask, especially you, is what is the process of investigation of hate crimes and how they differ from other crimes?
Sure. I'll be concise. Like many things in policing, we have checklists,
Of course.
and orders and things you need to cover and things you don't want to miss because it's vital, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the law says the officer shall, which means it's a mandate. The officer has to do it. I'll just go through the process. For hate crime investigation, number one, you want to ensure safety first. That's the first step with almost everything having to do with the police.
Okay.
Right? And then you're going to try to identify bias indicators, right? Offensive symbols, slurs, or graffiti, statements by suspects or witnesses, right? Victims' group identity, such as identification of race, religion, LGBTQ plus status, things of that nature. The officer has to notice that, right? Interview and document thoroughly, right? So you just said a hate crime happened to me. So that has to go through an interview and documentation process.
Okay.
You're going to classify appropriately. So if this elevates to the level of a hate crime, it's going to be working in Mass General Law, Chapter 265, Section 39. That's the umbrella, right? So
Okay.
you want to classify it properly. And always be aware of the possibility of dual charges, right?
Okay.
Such as assault with hate, crime enhancement, right? So the next thing is to notify and collaborate, right? So the officer who was told about this should probably tell their supervisor or maybe touch base with a local hate crime liaison officer. They might want to get in touch with the Massachusetts State Police Hate Crime Unit.
Okay.
Local police can call the state police,
Oh, okay.
right? And make sure you have a partnership with the DA's office, the district attorney's office, because they have a civil rights unit.
Okay.
And then you're going to want to refer and support the victim, refer them to resources and support them, and relentlessly follow up. Someone who's been violated with a hate crime can feel very shaken, very nervous, very triggered, very alone. Remember what I said earlier? An officer gets to extend a helping hand and pull someone into community, right?
Okay.
Be the ally or guardian of last resort is vital. Follow up, touch base with people.
Okay, so that part is the one that you mentioned, the follow-up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the way that you was talking about, like the reconnection with the people in the community.
That's something that wasn't happening, right? We in some parts of the country, officers are going back.
Okay.
And they're investigating to help,
Okay.
not just to enforce law.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Makes sense.
Talking about helping, are there any resources that you guys have that would be available for youth and bettering their mental health, possibly?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of different supports out there. I think the first one that I want to make sure that everyone's aware of is that there are help phone lines that you can call 24 hours a day. And we know that teens also like to text, so there's texting hotlines as well. So North Suffolk, actually, we have the mobile crisis team for this area. So I'll provide you guys with the information of the phone number that can be called 24 hours a day. The youth can call themselves. Somebody can call for them. If they need to see a clinician should be seeing them within 1 hour of receiving that phone call. And so they can get established into services. They can get whatever supports are needed, like that. There's a whole bunch of other phone numbers. The Massachusetts Behavioral Health Line can also help support. If you don't need to see somebody in person, but you're looking for certain supports, you can call them. There's also, you can find them on the internet as well. And there's search engines on there that you can say what types of supports that you're looking for. So it's for everybody, not just LGBTQIA plus persons, but anybody who's looking for support. 988 is the national hotline that can be either text messaged or called. And they can also be a way to talk to people about what's going on currently and offering supports in a safe manner. There's a lot of agencies in Massachusetts that also do amazing work. North Suffolk is obviously one of them. But there's also a bunch of them that are specifically looking to support the community that we're talking about right now. So there's the Bagley or NAGLY programs, GLASS, Emergency Fund, the Trans Lifeline, there's the Trevor Project, Fenway Health, Youth on Fire over in Cambridge has a shelter for youth. There's a lot of different types of programs. So there's partial hospitalization programs, which means day programs, like the Triangle program at Arbor. There's a whole bunch of different ones out there that can support people. If somebody's also looking for a therapist who is specifically trauma-informed or LGBTQIA, informed and or an ally and specializes in the community, you can look up on Psychology Today or Better Health. Both of those websites have specific drop downs that you can choose about searching for LGBTQ resources or a therapist, because having a therapist that is understanding and adequately trained is really important, because you want to make sure that you're heard and that you're seen and that you feel validated in what you're looking for that support in. A therapist that suggests something as conversion therapy, which is not a real clinical thing, is not somebody that you want to be seeing for getting the supports that you need. So making sure that you're getting the right type of therapy, I think, is really important.
And could I add some with respect to hate crimes?
Of course.
Okay. So a person could go to mass.gov/MOVA. That's the Massachusetts Office for Victim Assistance.
Okay.
The Attorney General Civil Rights Division has a phone number. You can call 617-963-2917. That is also on mass.gov. GLAD Answers for LGBTQ plus support. You can go to glad.org. And the Anti-Defamation League, New England, if you just look them up online as well. So starting locally, going and growing nationally, there's all these different services that are available, and a lot of people don't know. Mm-hmm. And knowing is half the battle.
Well, thank you for informing us and giving us those resources. Any last thoughts before we wrap this up?
I think just making sure that you're getting the services that you deserve. So getting that culturally competent or cultural humility type of services, affirmative care, making sure that you're getting the care that you really deserve and that you need, and not just going to the first therapist that you see. I always tell people it's like dating. You don't typically end up with the first person you dated in life. So sometimes you have to date around a little bit to find the person that you want to be with. And in different times of your life, you need to date different people, perhaps, which is the same with therapists. Sometimes you don't click with the first therapist or social worker or clinician that you meet with, but sometimes you do a couple of them down the line. So making sure that you're giving yourself the respect and the care to find the right person for you, and knowing that just because you might not have had the best experience before doesn't mean that will always be your experience.
Of course.
I'd just like to take these final moments to say that you matter. You matter. And if you haven't found somebody that cares, don't give up. They are out there. You're worth it. Look for them, ask for them, and find them, and they will wrap around you. And in Winthrop, you can come to the CLEAR program at the Public Health Department. It stands for Community and Law Enforcement Assisted Recovery, and ask for wraparound community-based services and find the care that you need. They are there. Don't give up.
Thank you so much. And with that, I just want to thank you guys for coming here. It's a really pleasure to having you. This is really useful for everyone who's listening right now with us, who is staying in tune with us. I think it's really wonderful information. And thank you. Thank you for having the time to came here and share that with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
No, of course. A pleasure.
A very informative day in the podcast. And I guess that wraps up our last episode. Oh my God. It's been a journey, but thank you so much for listening and watching Chelsea Speaks, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Also, up on the screen, we will also have donations if you guys want to donate to possibly hear maybe a season 2 of the podcast. If you guys are interested, who knows? But I had such a great experience. I can't wait to see how it goes. But yeah, bye guys.
And thank you guys for your support. This was Chelsea Speaks.
Hola, buenas tardes, yo soy Scarlett.
Mi nombre es María y le vamos a mostrar el programa de Youth Elemento. Y como pueden ver, esta es la mesa de recursos de salud mental.
Por aquí podemos ver los diferentes grupos que van a estar aquí. Aquí están los diferentes grupos y según el grupo que usted quiera participar, se tiene cada una de estas fichas. Por aquí está el salón de arte, aquí hacemos arte, varias actividades.
Como podemos ver, es el cuarto de silencio. Aquí es donde reciben las terapias.
Esto que vemos aquí es la ducha, por acá pueden encontrar jabón y toallas para que
Como podemos ver, aquí esta es la computadora de inglés, la estación de carga, la impresora.
aquí pueden ir a encontrar el baño, es un baño que todo género puede utilizar. Esta es la cocina, como pueden ver es súper amplia. Tenemos una nevera para cocinar lo que desees. Tenemos horno. Ese es el cuarto de música. Aquí tú puedes poner cualquier tipo de música. Tenemos micrófonos. Aquí tú puedes hacer cualquier tipo de
Pueden ver, este es el máximo. Todo aquí es donado, todo lo que pueden tomar, alimentos, la ropa que deseen, lo que deseen.
Esto es Youth Elementos.